Hey, if you want to look great naked without living in the gym, you have to avoid this key shoulder training mistake. Now, it's no secret that building bigger, broader shoulders is the key to having that V-tapered physique that helps you look, feel, and perform your best. But when it comes to an overhead press, most people do not have the mobility to actually get into that position safely. Let me show you what I mean. So whether we're seated or standing, most people when they do a shoulder press, the weight ends up actually drifting forward. This is a combination of things. Sometimes they're arching their lower back, trying to get the range of motion where they are stacked vertically, but they can't quite get there. And so what we need to know is we're consistently in this internally rotated kyphotic posture that prevent people from getting into this joint stack position where we have our wrist, elbow, and shoulder stacked vertically in alignment with our torso. When you can't get into that position and then you force an exercise like a barbell or a dumbbell overhead press, you're putting your body in a suboptimal position. The rotator cuff has to work even harder to stabilize in that less than ideal position, putting more strain directly on it, decreasing stability and decreasing force output, which means you're not gonna get as much bang for your buck on your shoulder press and you're gonna open up the door for injury. So what we need to do, first, we need to improve that mobility so you can move through that range of motion safely. And then we need to retrain the shoulder press in different ranges of motion in order to fully develop your shoulders. Here's how we do it. All right, so we need to work on mobility. We need to get used to being able to go overhead without compensating through arching our back or having our arms drift forward with the shoulder press. So a great way to do this is an exercise called the overhead extension. Right here, I've got a foam roller, gonna go vertical directly with my spine. And so I'm gonna brace my abs. I'm not gonna arch, I'm gonna stay flat against it, and I'm gonna take my arms and go directly overhead. And we just wanna go through the range of motion as far as we can without compensating for 10 reps. So for example, if I go here and then I start to arch in order to get overhead, that's not what we want. That's just gonna reinforce shitty mechanics when we actually have weight overhead. And if we stack poor mechanics with weight, we're opening the door for injury. So exercise number 1, overhead extension. Now, once we've gone through that range of motion with the overhead extension, we wanna make sure that we are stabilizing. The muscles are gonna help us have more stabilization overhead. Specifically, we wanna fire up the lower trap. A lot of people think of the traps just as the upper traps, which come up towards your ears, and not the lower trap, which come quite a bit lower down your spine. And so, now that we have improved the range of motion from the overhead extension, we're gonna do a floor slide. We can do this on the floor, a wall, but I prefer the foam roller. So here, now we're just gonna drive the elbows down. And what you do is you get a big squeeze between your shoulder blades and you're gonna feel your mid-traps activate probably like never before. So 10 exercises on the overhead extension, then 10 more exercises with that floor slide on top of the foam roller. So now that we've gone through with improved mobility directly with a couple floor-based exercises, there are 2 more things that I like to weave in. One is a band dislocation. The second exercise is a band pull apart. So the dislocation is gonna help improve range of motion through the shoulder. And so what we do here, I have a 1/8 mini band. We can tighten it up based on your mobility if you've got a little bit better mobility overall, but we're just gonna go over and back. And the band has a little bit of give, unlike something like a wooden dowel, which isn't gonna factor in your individual mobility. And so my arms are staying straight. I'm just gonna go over and back 20 to 25 times. Sometimes what you can do as well, you can tighten up that band if your mobility is pretty good, and you can continue making improvements. The 4th and final exercise that we focus on here is gonna be the band pull apart. Band pull apart is gonna work on activating, firing up your rear delts, rhomboids, and traps. And so what we do here, grab with a double overhand position. Same principle, we can create more tension by going tighter on the band or less by going a little bit wider. And all we need to do is pull apart. All the range of motion here takes place through squeezing my scapula. My shoulder blades are coming together. I'm not bending my elbow and trying to get a tricep pump, right? And so we're gonna go 20 to 25 reps there. So the entire sequence would be overhead extension, 10, floor slide, 10, band dislocation, 25, band pull apart, 25. Run through that once or twice, 3 days per week. That's gonna help improve that overhead mechanics and even give some little volume to help build your upper back as well. One of the most important things when it comes to improving mobility and range of motion through certain exercises, we have to do it consistently because we spend all day right here on our computer, on our phone. And so to be able to combat that posture where we're continuously kyphotic, we have to really work at getting our chest up, traps activated, and into a much better position. Now that we've worked on improving mobility, we want to start retraining the overhead pressing pattern while understanding it's going to take time to be able to get into that overhead position without compensating. So a couple exercises that I like. The first one is going to be a half kneeling landmine press. The half kneeling position is going to be great because it's going to force you to activate and stabilize your core. And a lot of people will tend to arch their back when they can't get overhead properly with an overhead press. So what we do here, we squeeze the glute on the down leg, we're locked in here, and we're pressing directly overhead and controlling all the way down. The benefit of these unilateral exercises as well, you get some great anti-lateral flexion work, so it's going to train the QL and it's going to train the obliques at the same time. So half kneeling press, awesome. You can replace that or replace your shoulder press with that without an issue. The second variation that I like, also in this half kneeling position, is going to be a half kneeling overhead press. Now this one's going to be a little bit more advanced, quote unquote, than the landmine press because we're going to be more of a pure directly overhead mechanic instead of that quasi motion that we just saw. So same principle, squeezing the glute on the down leg, chest is up, abs are tight. Press overhead, joint stack position, and then control all the way down. Now the third variation, if we're getting purely into an overhead press, I like to be able to do a single arm press. Again, because we're doing single arm, we're actually going to activate some high threshold motor units and stabilizing muscle fibers that normally are not hit when we're doing a bilateral exercise. So when we can go here, we're going to brace the abs and we're going to press directly over the top, preventing that lateral flexion. Again, the key thing we're looking for here, are we in that joint stacked vertical position all the way through and controlling all the way down. Now, there are some instances when people's posture gets so locked in that they simply are not going to have the ability to go overhead safely anymore. It happens. This is the reality of it. But what we can do is then we can start to incorporate the landmine press, and we can start to do more incline presses. In fact, if we start to go 45, 60, even 75 degrees in a bench press, we're gonna start to bias the exercise even more towards the shoulder. It's not gonna be a direct overhead press, but we're still gonna get a lot of shoulder development doing so. The key there is we have to start adding a lot of lateral raise variations and variations to hit the rear delts in order to build that overall capped shoulder look that we are trying to get. Now, hey, I hope you got a lot of value directly from this particular video. You see, going through these different exercise techniques is what we do directly with our clients to make sure that they're in the safest position to make the most bang for their buck when it comes to their training. And that's something that you need to take away as well. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please do me a favor, drop me a comment and drop me a like. And if there's something else you would like to see, another exercise to break down so you can be more efficient and look great naked without living in the gym, let me know, because all these ideas come directly from my clients, from social media, and of course from you watching this right now. So with that said, listen, you don't need complicated programs. You can look great naked without living in the gym, but it comes down to mastering the basics and being brutally consistent over time. All right, that's it. Did you find this helpful? If so, pound that like button and hit subscribe. Now, if you want a free copy of our Chiseled Muscle Cheat Sheet, the no BS way to help you lose body fat and build lean muscle in 90 days, make sure that you go to the description below and download your free copy. Any questions? Drop them in the comments, and can't wait to see you with the next video.